Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to Zero Time Dilemma. So we did another sequence that ended kind of abruptly, as it was, and so either you get the bad ending where everybody dies or most people die, or you get a cutscene that is locked. We've seen that happen in 3 cases, although noticeably there isn't actually a lock being depicted here as much as there's just a death sequence if you can't name the right person who killed the character. And how would we really know that until we get into these middle sections? And it does seem like the game just wants us to see the top and bottom chronologically of events before we see the middle, and it starts to potentially make some sense. So we tried on this one the lower right, and then we went one up here on D team. So doing either one of these I don't think really is going to help us much. So let's just jump around and do this. These are all over the place, so I assume there's probably very little chance that we'll run into a fragment here that would interconnect with any other memory fragments. You would also kind of expect that Akane's and Junpei's ability to make a morphogenic field would play a role more often in these memory fragments, but it doesn't seem like that's the case.
The infirmary.
This infirmary looks
locked in here while we
fairly
were unconscious.
different.
Huh? It opened.
So that means...
We weren't locked in?
But why are we here then?
1810.
Greetings, C-Team.
Different, we're getting
Zero.
actual Zero conversation at the beginning.
I shall tell you an old story.
So maybe the sequence is more important.
A woman was killed. One day, about a month later, a male suspect was located and arrested for her death. He claimed innocence, but the jury found him guilty. The verdict could not be overturned, and thus the man was executed. In her grief, the man's wife took her own life. 2 young children were left behind.
She left 2 children?
We moved to several years later. New DNA analysis results proved that the man's claims were true. He was falsely convicted. The true culprit remains at large, their identity still unknown. Life is simply unfair, don't you think?
More of these pointless stories.
I don't think they might be pointless.
Say perhaps one day you woke up and found yourself injected with poison. That's not too odd to happen to someone. Just as it has to you.
What?
If you do nothing, the 6 of you will fall asleep, only to never regain
6.
consciousness again.
Interesting.
6.
Fuck you, asshole.
The antidote is in that room. Find it. Good luck.
We've been poisoned?
I don't feel different, but I doubt he was lying to us just then.
We better get to finding this antidote. I didn't make it to today just to end like this.
He's looking at a ring.
What I'm here
She has an
to do.
interesting
I can't die.
hairband, Akane
You're
does.
right. Let's all get through this together. We'll find the way to stay alive.
They seem to be very uninterested in actually taking out taking off the bracelets. So you can just straight up leave. I wonder if the Heart Ripper killer storyline connected to the false conviction story that we just heard and the family portrait we saw of two kids and a mother and a father all connect kind of into the same narrative, and that is the hint as far as Zero. We have a picture here of a candle flame. So we're gonna burn this, I think, at some point. A humidifier, which seems odd that you'd bother to do a humidifier. I have a syringe, time to take your medicine, Junpei. If only you'd be wearing a lab coat when you said that. All of these objects, you need them to solve the puzzles, but they are very uninteresting visually. You should also see if there's anything under the bed. But it doesn't seem like we can turn it upside down. This room feels somewhat reminiscent of a room in the previous game. Canister. This luminol spray, luminol reacts to the hemoglobin in blood. It's used to investigate crime scenes. Maybe we can use it here. So are we supposed to combine luminol spray with the syringe? No. We can't do anything with that book. Alright, well, let's see if there's anything we can do with the luminol spray. No reaction here. No reaction here. Anywhere we click now, seemingly going to be luminol sprayed. It's straight up telling me to take the spray bottle out of the inventory. Let's go ahead and do that. Some kind of barcode reader. Probably have to use it somewhere. Yeah, nowadays the idea of a barcode reader is pretty backwards compared to just having a camera and a QR code system. We'll spray with this with the luminol spray. Power box. Another plant that's all withered, which maybe that's a hint as far as how old this facility might be. Let's go ahead and take the stethoscope. It's the male fantasy. I'm not putting that thing on unless I need to. God, so fast ruining the guy's dream. See, there definitely is some weirdness of the flirty nature of this visual novel, considering it's around death games. Whereas, if this was just a romance visual novel, the flirtiness would make a lot more sense. But yeah, there definitely seems to be a desire. There seems to be a real desire to make relationships and in part have relationships that are around flirting at the very least. Well, something appeared. Something's written on the lockers with blood. But it kind of doesn't work. I mean, it really doesn't work. There's no kinda to it. I imagine none of this is going to combine. Yep. 5, 7, 8. Alright, well, we'll just quickly put that in. Okay. So it seems like we could probably brute force that, or was that 528? 528. I just misread it. But that's another problem certainly with these kinds of puzzles, is when that almost certainly would have been written in Japanese originally, the localization is trying to make it artistically stylized, but it then becomes harder to read. So game is recognizing that and telling me the actual numbers if I read the dialogue. 4, 1, 3, and we're gonna probably find that there's nothing in any of these, or maybe we're losing time every time we do this. And maybe in an alternate timeline you would just run to the center lock. But we know that in different runs the location of an item may change. It's a card, it's a picture of a syringe pointing at the candle. Maybe it's some kind of hint of it, if it was placed inside the locker. Okay. And then a Q puzzle. Never did like those puzzles, did you, even when we were kids? Let's do our best. And interesting here that we have the whole puzzle set up. I don't even know how I'm supposed to do this. Like, the controls feel wonky, and it doesn't feel like things really work that well. I can drag things around. And I think that maybe as much as this puzzle is that there's this awkward, just wrong way to do things. Like that potentially is the solution. And then we just hit check, and then it puts it all together. Alright, the puzzle box done. Something came out of it. Ugh, that was annoying. I need a sugar pick-me-up. Let's find the antidote and we can look for candy in the lounge after. Okay. So now we have a key card with nothing on it. Yep. You almost would expect that Spike Chunsoft, well, that's not good, would have reused these assets as far as the puzzle cubes and barcode readers and things like that. Like for other games, or at least I think that may have been their plan. The card said to inject the candle, so I did. It did nothing. I don't think the card's wrong though. What are we missing? Fire. But we don't really have anything that would start fire. We see the blood. It's going this way. And so, definitely does feel like you're gonna find that the other people are potentially knocked out in the other room or dead in the other room. Okay, so the scanner doesn't turn on when we push the button. So I imagine this card is supposed to go in here. Hey, it fits. We can use a CT scanner. Let's try it out. Right. So we don't know anything about Carlos. Whereas we're not really expecting to see anything in Junpei or Kane, so let's do Carlos. Hey Carlos, I'm gonna start the scan. Got it. I hope nothing bad shows up. In the future there was a scanner that would tell if people were sick in a lot of different ways. I imagine this CT scanner is gonna only really show the inside of the brain. It's a barcode pattern, so let's use the barcode reader on this. And then clearly that is from a touchscreen, something like a 2DS, 3DS console. There would just be no reason for that. Honestly, I don't think this barcode would work because the skull part of it is adding extra lines and changing it from black and white. And yeah, we're probably gonna just have to scan everybody. That would be my guess. See, this would be a fairly contrived way to just trick people into scanning their own heads. And so they want us to check that again, but honestly I think we just need to scan everybody. Don't do anything weird while I'm lying on this, Junpei. It's weird because it really does only make sense that it would be a year since the events of the first game, because if it had been a few more years, you would assume either Junpei or Kane would have been back to being very close friends, and romantically involved, more than likely, to the point where they actually trust things and aren't making the kind of early dating jabs and jokes. Or, more than likely, they wouldn't be related at all, and in a sense that after the traumatic events of the first game, they would just go their own way and never talk to each other again. So I assume this is just going to work now. Hey, that thing just beeped. Check it out. Turned green. So, and that's the last time we'll use the barcode reader. It's a bottle of ink and a lug wrench. This must be needed for something since it was locked in the drawer. So yeah, bottle of ink. That could easily also be a bottle of antidote. So let's go ahead and combine those two and put the ink in the syringe. And then a lug nut wrench, like, very obviously could be used in any kind of escape the room game. Now that we do have ink, maybe the idea is to inject it into the picture as I'm skipping through the dialogue. So we inject it, and the ink spreads across the bottom half of the picture. This isn't creepy at all. So the card was hitting and injecting the candle. And these shapes on the side are strange. I wonder what they could be. Okay. So we continue injecting things. And that's made X's. And at that we have we've lost our ink with syringe. In each of the X is a nut hidden to remove this. We definitely are having a weird kind of Western lazy experience as I play this game, or I'm having a weird, personally, Western experience, because I'm not really reading the lines of dialogue. The whole picture slid up, something came out. So, yeah, when we are in these escape rooms, my interest just completely bottoms out to zero, and it's only in the cutscenes that I actually care. And so I would like to potentially have seen a game here that was maybe just a full-on kinetic visual novel with voice acting, which is effectively just to say an anime. Just watch the events and not try and worry about it as far as the puzzles or interaction. Sorry, I'm drinking some water here. What's this? Looks like there's something inside the glass. Could it be an antidote? Numbers, but what is the combination? Why don't we just turn it until it clicks? I doubt it'll be that easy. Okay. So combination. So far I don't think we've gotten a single note, but we did get the card. Noticeably you can't turn the card over. That would have been a way, if you could spin the cards over, that you wasted the player's time a lot. See, like, every line of dialogue in this is Junpei perving on Akane, which just doesn't really work. And at a certain level, if you're going to go that way, I think you should just go more extreme that way in one sequence that maybe you have to cut out later, versus it being throughout the entire story. Since this is Saw, in one of the Saw sequels, there is a whole sequence where a woman is trapped in this freezer that is spraying her with water and then turning on industrial freezer fans to freeze the water, and it eventually just kills her and turns her into an ice block. But throughout that whole sequence, that she is like chained up naked, and noticeably in all the sequels after that, you really don't have any nudity or anything like that implied in the Saw series, because I imagine they got some pushback from the MPAA around that sequence. But you potentially would have a sequence like that, just one sequence. And maybe the idea here from the creator of Zero Time Dilemma is that he doesn't want his lewd dialogue to be cut out, and he doesn't really have any other dialogue to put it to write or to replace it with, so he's just made it prevalent through an entire sequence. And I imagine it's going to be prevalent throughout all of the conversations between Akane and Junpei. It also comes off like he just doesn't know how to write a relationship conversation versus a perving on people or joking sexual tension kind of conversation. Geez, it's no big deal. I wasn't asking you to take anything off. And then you only get that line of dialogue once when you look at the stethoscope. And then you get just very basic lines of dialogues otherwise. So they could have decided to not even bother with the first lines of dialogue and just stick with the default "it's a lab coat" type responses. I guess we're going to use the stethoscope to hear the lock sounds. Let's hope that works. Okay, everyone be quiet. Okay. I'm using the left and right stick at the moment and nothing is happening. Okay, so it's right bump and left bump. So we'll just go left bump. And I imagine you don't actually have to hit a button here. Notice they are trying to accommodate deaf people, or people that are just not maybe listening pretty well here with the visual feedback. Alright, so 15. It's a fairly obvious click sound. 7. I wonder if I have to memorize this. 15, 7, 12. Yes, I think that unlocked it. Way to go, Carlos. Let's open it up. And it looks like there's 9 cases. It looks like they could contain an antidote. A, B, and C all the way to H. There are 8 cases. I wonder if only 3 of the cases, or 3 of the antidotes in one of those cases actually are antidotes and everything else is an instant poison. And each has a button with a small container. What are these? This may be a fairly complicated puzzle here that we have to decide on.
Must be circulating through and making you feel heavy right now. Do not worry. Your lives shall be spared if you drink 100 cc of the antidote within the case.
The case? This case?
It should be obvious that there are 8 containers.
Notably here, though, when we do get voice acting, it isn't Junpei and Akane flirting with each other, or Junpei harassing Akane.
The other 7 are dummies. By pressing the red button in the center, the lock to that container will disengage. Only one may be opened.
Now is the time to pay attention.
So if we're wrong, we'll...
Still, I am not so cruel. I shall give you a hint. Sitting beneath each button is a sample of the liquid stored within. It is only 1 cc, but it is enough to provide a clue to its validity. The antidote has a peculiar characteristic. 3 minutes after you lick it, the tip of your tongue will become numb. You have 5 minutes remaining. If my calculations are correct, the poison will have spread completely through you by then, and your life is forfeit. Which case will you open then? The choice is yours.
So the problem
What
here
do we do? What the hell
is-
do we do?
you either need to know
We should
the
go
answer
left
to a
right
lot
and
of
lick
these.
each one. I'll take A. Carlos, grab B. Akane, you take C.
No, we can't rely on that method to work.
Like, you have to kind of know
It
these
takes 3
solutions
minutes before we know
first,
anything
otherwise
either way.
you aren't going to figure it out in
That would
5
feel right
minutes.
if we picked the correct one, but if we didn't,
We're all dead.
So, what do we...
Junpei, just calm down. There's a better way. First, Carlos. You need to lick E, F, G, and H. Next, Junpei. You lick samples C, D, G, and H.
But they're going to
For
basically
me,
explain
I'll
this.
take samples B, D, F, and H.
What about A?
We don't need to test that one.
Why?
We don't have time. Just do as I say.
And see, she just knows the answer,
Alright.
even though she's
Trust
not the
Akane.
leader in the group. Carlos is. But
Whoa.
The
This
thing
feeling.
here is just whose tongues
Carlos,
is gonna go
I think
numb.
one of mine was it.
You too? Mine's working too.
And me! The tip of my tongue is numb.
So, all three of us?
That means
The answer must be.
H.
Akane!
hey, what's wrong?
Shit! Our resistances, they must be different. It looks like the poison got to her faster.
So what should we do now? What was that method Akane came up with?
She didn't really explain
We'll
it.
have to make the decision ourselves.
The answer. What's the answer?
The answer is
I licked
H.
samples E, F, G, and H. Junpei had C, D, G, and H. Akane licked B, D, F, and H. And then, all three of us felt it. In that case, the container with the antidote is...
I wonder if it's gonna make you type it in. Well, the answer is H. There's a different way, certainly, to have done this also, though, in that you could have had one person lick A, and then wait a minute, lick B, wait a minute, lick C. Then the next person at the beginning would have licked D, then wait a minute, lick E and F. And then you could have used time if it was exactly 3 minutes before your tongue went numb, which they were pretty much promising that. There is also a very complicated way to do this if you have a lot more numbers in which you could try to use powers of 2 and combinations. So I've heard different puzzles around the idea of poisoning, certainly. It's a favorite way to do these like math games. But you're not really thinking out the math games, are you? They just straight up told you what to do, and then this might as well just be guessing. Yeah, H is if all of their tongues went numb. A is if none of their tongues went numb. If only one person's tongue went numb, it would have been the one that one person licked alone. If two people's tongues went numb, it would have been the letter that was shared by those two people. But they've also picked a very easy solution here in H, because even the way they mention H at the end makes it stand out. If I'm wrong about this, I'll be shocked. But that's like 5 seconds of real gameplay that's actually interesting versus 30 minutes of escape the room garbage.
Zero said that we'd need 100 cc's of the antidote. Doesn't that mean that each of those are 50 cc's?
No, I'm pretty sure these are 100 cc.
So,
Yeah.
there are 3.
Most people don't even know what a CC is, so...
Whatever. We got it right. Didn't we, Carlos?
Yeah, I'm positive.
So quickly inject these people with the syringe that I guess magically is going to come back into the story
Hurry, get her the medicine.
with ink also
I
in
know.
it.
We need to take it too.
Right.
Interesting that they didn't bother to animate
down
like
the
in an
hatch.
injection gun. Instead, they're having them drink it.
No, that's Junpei.
Why is Carlos seeing a different timeline with Junpei's head cut off? That's weird.
I'm really sorry. I just suddenly fainted and.
No, it's okay. Your plan still saved us. Thanks.
So clearly they are getting
Still,
images
6
of
vials
different
antidote is
endings.
Kind of strange. Why so many? What are the other 3 for?
They're really not paying enough attention to the blood leaving the other
Now
room.
announcing the current casualties. QT, Q, Mira, Eric. These 3 are now deceased.
How would
As
they
a
have?
result, 3 X-passes will be
How would they have given the antidote?
kill. Fool. That is all.
Q team is.
How could they?
How could you have given Q
Q. He couldn't even
the
see
antidote?
or hear when. To just mercilessly kill someone like that. So I guess that means only us and D team are still alive.
Oh, wait a minute.
And
I
arguably,
think D-Team might be in danger right now.
if we had
Carlos, Junpei, grab the antidote and get to the lounge.
gotten the wrong
No
answer, then
time to
maybe
explain.
Q team would
Hurry.
still be alive, or maybe it would have just given you a game over where everybody was dead. I suspect it will give you a game over where everybody's dead.
These are an antidote. Please drink them, Akane.
When Zero spoke to us, I realized something. C-Team weren't the only ones to be administered the poison.
If you do nothing, the 6 of you will fall asleep, only to never regain consciousness again.
You're right. He did say 6 back then.
Yes, and now Q-Team is...
Notice how they
So the
bother
other
to animate
3 are-
petting the dog.
Everyone on D team. I just hope these actually get to them.
Will he even reach them in time?
The only thing we can do now is pray.
What? That he'll be in time? Or.
Or...
That he doesn't make it and there'll be 6 people dead. That's what you meant, right?
Junpei!
I'm kidding? Ugh, God, you sound like my mom.
See, Junpei really comes off too much like a jerk for the main protagonist of the first game, and supposedly
you don't really
a
look
good
all right,
guy.
Carlos. Maybe the poison's not completely gone yet.
No, that's not it.
You're worried about the D team then?
Junpei, this might sound messed up to you, but I saw something earlier, like a vision.
A vision?
And almost certainly we would
Junpei, your head.
get this
It was in
cutscene,
the pantry. Just your head.
because we really haven't seen this sequence. We've just seen this sequence on camera in a different sequence.
What the hell are you smoking, Carlos? I'm fine. See? Look, all limbs attached and accounted for.
Maybe it was like a prophecy or something.
I highly doubt you're seeing into the future.
I agree. I don't think you're predicting what will happen. It's not the future you saw, but a different past.
What do you mean?
You know, don't you, Junpei? Morphogenetic field theory.
Gonna
A
explain
special
it again.
field exists in a dimension we can't see that acts as a medium for information. This may be what's happening.
This is an odd
I
camera
think
angle
Carlos accessed
in a
that
lot of
field
ways,
and
'cause,
saw another history.
like her dress is
What?
not particularly
Remember what you said
highlighting
during
her
the vote?
backside, so showing
You
her
can
entire
tell
back
down
and
which path death
butt
waits and which is
this way
safe.
isn't really showing much.
Yeah?
They really should have
But
just tilted the
that's
camera
just
to
my
show the
gut
back of
feeling.
her
Are
head
you sure?
a little bit more if they
Where are you
want
going
that
with this?
angle.
You're a firefighter, right? There must have been countless times when you found yourself facing danger. Better to go right or left. Go upstairs or turn back. Maybe every time you made a decision, you were observing the other histories. Which room held someone needing your help? Which door blocked an inferno? You knew because
Here you have
saw
a
it
generic
happen
fire
already.
animation
Morphogenetic field
getting
theory.
used a lot.
Why do you know all this, Akane?
Because I have the same ability as you. And Junpei can do it too. He saved me once. It's thanks to his power that I'm even here at all.
That was a long time ago. I I haven't been able to use it since.
It was a year ago.
Even now,
Greetings. How does it feel to revive from the brink of hell?
0.
Now it is time for you to sleep. When next you wake, know you will have no memory of these past 90 minutes. Pleasant dreams.
So if they're getting reset each time, but 3 of them actually do have memories about how they voted in the first sequence, that got me an achievement. I don't know why specifically that got me an achievement, but yeah. At some level, 3 people, probably the team leaders, I'd guess, remember what they voted for at the beginning here. And then, I guess chronologically, we finally found the memory that is directly after that sequence. So, C team would have voted whatever outcome happened here they don't know about, but it basically told us in that sequence that Q team died regardless. And so this really doesn't feel like this is the right path. And almost certainly then this is going to be the path that is the good ending path, because in this sequence a different team was dead, in this sequence a different team is dead. It is kind of questionable what the connecting tissue would be between here and getting to here, but maybe we don't unlock this connective section until we do all 3 of these sections, and so more and more it's going to go in circles like that. And then we have another sequence. Which sequence was it that we just unlocked? This one. Which, yeah, you can pretty well tell that these storylines are not the interesting storylines. Which also makes me wonder if we're going to eventually start unlocking in the back half of the game less and less cutscenes. Alright, well, let's jump back to the decision point and make the wrong choice. The most logical wrong choice that you would have made here would have been to pick A. So we'll just pick A.
This feels weird.
Huh? Weird? Did your tongue go numb, Carlos?
Yeah. What about you?
Interesting, you can't skip any further.
No.
Once you
nothing.
get into this point.
I think mine were all dummies.
So I'm the only one to feel it.
It's different.
It's probably...
Akane!
Hey, what's wrong?
So they very specifically wouldn't let you skip
Only I felt
that
numb.
section.
In that case, the container where the antidote is.
This does give you the opportunity to play it multiple times, but once you already know the trick, multiple times don't matter. And I kind of feel like if this was the idea that they were going to give us these mathematical puzzle games, which is kind of what they promised in 999 and didn't really deliver enough on, and again, they probably aren't delivering enough on in this game. But if you're going to do that, they probably should just have us not get any hints at all, and then just assume that if somebody's going to look up the answer and have it explained to them, they have to do it outside the game via a walkthrough or going online through a walkthrough nowadays, and then just let the player brute force it, because you could spend easily 30 minutes just on this puzzle if it randomizes every single time and the player just has to think about that puzzle and that event. We want to pick the wrong one, so we'll pick A. We know A is wrong still. A would only be right if none of their tongues were numb.
Why are there 6?
Zero said that we'd need 100 cc's of the antidote. Doesn't that mean that each of those are 50 cc's?
I guess the question comes
no, I'm
down
pretty sure
to
these are 100 cc.
So, there are 3 left over. Whatever. We got it right. Didn't we, Carlos?
yeah.
Yeah,
The question is
positive.
whether they are going to give you
June.
the ability to skip things that you haven't
Hang
seen
on.
before.
Akane.
And I imagine
Hurry,
the
get
answer
her the
is
medicine.
no.
Yeah, I know.
We need to take it too.
Right.
Okay, down the
The
hatch.
angel with the candle symbology. I don't quite understand that. And so this should just be a game over where everybody dies. That sounds like a lot more groaning.
I'm sorry, you guys.
Damn you, Carlos.
I guess maybe the idea of the escape rooms is to have slightly more lighthearted. So completed all poison sections have now been cleared. It's been a while since we've seen one of that. Let's go ahead and make sure we save too. These sections are getting shorter and shorter. And playtime here I don't think is accurate at 20 hours at all. But yeah, there was no achievement for clearing all the poison sections, it's just an in-game notification on that. There's no extra cutscene being shown here, which is to say there are death cutscenes that are not part of the global flowchart. Selecting this now, I don't think unlocked anything new. Yeah, I think these 3 new are still the same 3 new. And these 3 new are definitely still the same 3 new. And these 4 remaining new are the same remaining new. It does potentially open up a second gameplay, a chronological gameplay, if you were to actively try and go from the beginning all the way to the end, in that your guesses change, certainly. But if your guess changes at the very beginning, and whether it's red or blue is not set in stone, that would be a little weird, because you could potentially play the game from the beginning 4 or 5 times and accidentally get it right and get the everybody survives ending, which doesn't actually move the story any further, and you kind of can tell that it's not going to go any further. There's no room for it to go any further. Yeah, and again, I kind of don't think we're going to even be able to touch this sequence until we either choose to kill somebody or we see the endings of choosing to kill somebody. It is going to be weird, certainly, though, because we are going to run into a scenario where we do just eventually mark everything as not new, and then we'll obviously have to go back and do something different if nothing else unlocks. It definitely feels like something should have unlocked in this progress, and it just isn't happening. So progress is kind of slower than I would like it to be. But in all fairness, it does feel like we're progressing way better than the 2 previous Nonary games. But there is something certainly to be said about this being the 3rd game in a trilogy, even if this game wasn't actually supposed to be part of the trilogy originally, which it definitely feels like that's the case. But that the game still being fairly rough as a concept and as an idea, like you would have wanted to see more progression, more improvements, more quality of life improvements in a game like this, particularly if you're trying to make it be more than a niche game, which maybe they don't care to make it more than a niche game. But yeah, we see a little bit of quality of life improvements, but not quite enough. And it is not just quality of life that needed to have improved, it's also quality of the actual gameplay and interactions. Imagine if, for instance, the Myst series, which was a big Puzzle Island game, imagine if they had just continuously made very, very similar puzzles to the first Myst game, instead of trying very hard to make different puzzles in Riven, the sequel to Myst. It wouldn't have worked, and it definitely wouldn't have worked when they eventually made a Myst 3 if it was still the same kind of puzzles and the same generic quality of puzzles. There just needs to be a lot more ambition in the actual gameplay interaction. Noticeably, though, this highlights something that I imagine most Western people never really realized, that the Japanese audience looked at the 2DS and 3DS as being something more than just a Nintendo video game console. Visual novels like this and generic puzzle things like this are much closer to something you would have expected to see on a cell phone as a cell phone game these days than something you would expect to pay potentially $60 for to play on a Nintendo console. Or maybe on Nintendo's now it would be a downloadable game that's way cheaper. And that there's a long history of that, certainly. Like the Game Boy camera, the Game Boy printer, attachments were designed, not I think officially by Nintendo, to connect a Game Boy to a sewing machine. There was definitely licensed Game Boy games for taking notes and having a daily calendar and doing brain training and doing Sudoku. All very non-traditional games were available on the Game Boy in particular. And that concept of it being able to do more and be a multi-use platform is still kind of in the minds of Japanese audiences, in which they're making a game here that really doesn't feel like a video game where you just push buttons and smash. If a Western game developer was making this game, there would just be like robots to fight, and you would have to do some button combinations to fight the robots to get through a hallway, or there would be some kind of action sequences or QuickTime events. I could easily see putting QuickTime events and having them nicely animated in a game like this, and that honestly would probably make it more interesting to a Western audience. But yeah, none of that's there. Anyways, I'm going to obviously have to resolve to not try and stretch out these endings so much as these episodes are getting shorter and shorter. So that's going to be it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.